Let's decipher this Bible of atheism. Let's see if this makes sense. So, the biologist Richard Dawkins, he writes in his book about the universe, about the world, about the complexity. It makes sense to him that there is a design, but he calls it the illusion of design. He believes there is no designer. He believes this is a blind watchmaker. It's evolution. But the question is this. Evolution explains how something works. It's not mutually exclusive with God. You could have a belief in a creator and believe in evolution. It doesn't mean these two things conflict. He actually makes a good case for why there is a creator without realizing it. And I'm going to explain why. In his book, and I know it's funny, someone holding up an atheist book and using it like a Bible reference. In his book, on page 12, he has a quote from Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan was a famous cosmologist who was also an atheist. And what Carl Sagan talks about is this. How is it hardly that any major religion has looked at science and concluded, this is better than we thought. The universe is much bigger than our prophets said, grander and more subtle and more elegant. So this is Carl Sagan making an argument what he believes against God. But if you really think about what he's saying, this is a good reason, a good sign that the fact that there is a creator. Imagine, he's talking about the pale blue dot, which is this earth right here. This earth is like a football in a massive stadium. And the massive stadium is like a football in a massive country. And that country is like a dot in a massive continent. And that continent is like a dot in a massive universe. And this earth is a massive dot in the massive universe. And think about all of this. And think about your fingerprint. There's no two people on earth with the same fingerprint. How is it possible that this magnificent universe can be a product of chance? Let's look at the references that they use. Let's look at the arguments that they use. This biologist, what he's doing is, he's using his authority, the fact that he is a professor, the fact that he is someone that people look up to, and he talks about something which is out of his remit, which is theology, which is in a way philosophy. And he makes conclusions as if they are facts. He speaks about evolution as a reason to be an intellectually satisfied atheist. But the question is, who was the first person to come up with evolution? Who was it?
Jesus Christ.
It wasn't Jesus Christ, sir.
It was Jesus
It
Christ.
wasn't Jesus Christ.
Jesus
Who was
Christ
it?
went in there in the temple
God?
and threw them out.
You believe it's God? Darwin? It wasn't
no
Darwin.
such thing as a God.
Think about it.
Only a belief.
Evolution was described by the ancient Greeks. It was later on described by medieval scientists in Arabia.
Yours is a
Those
medieval
people
belief.
didn't make the conclusion that because evolution is true, therefore there's no God. All evolution is the process of how. And even the process of evolution, the theory of evolution, it changes all the time. Evolution from the time of Darwin, evolution today, is different. One thing we can agree about is evolution doesn't mean there is no God. Now in an interview, and I want you to think about this, in an interview, Richard Dawkins is talking to someone called Lawrence Krauss, and this interview can be found on YouTube. In this interview, Richard Dawkins basically says, you don't have to be an atheist to believe in evolution. But there is an impression that if you believe in evolution, you have to reject God. Because he wants people to disbelieve in God, he is promoting evolution. Now look at the cunningness of this man. Look at the desperation of this man. All it really shows is the people who claim religion is nothing but myth, they believe in a myth themselves. How many people here believe in Cinderella? Put your hands up. Cinderella. No one? How many people here believe there is no God? Raise your hand. If you believe there is no God, I'm going to show you that you might as well believe in Cinderella. What happens to the pumpkin in Cinderella? Does anyone know? The pumpkin turns into what, sir? A golden carriage, right? The fairy goes and with the sticks, the pumpkin turns into a golden carriage. Is that logical to believe? Come on, is it logical to believe a pumpkin can turn into a golden carriage? Is it? Of course not. Thank you. So, if a pumpkin cannot turn into a golden carriage, which has wheels, which has alloys, which has a shape, which has a dimension, which has a symmetry, we'd never believe a pumpkin can turn into a golden carriage. How can we believe that this universe, with its physical, chemical, biological laws and the diversity of life, including the fact that we can think is a product of chance and came by nothing, how can we believe that? In fact, not even nothing. If someone was to believe it's a spaghetti monster or a pumpkin, that would be more logical. How is it that people who we think are intelligent, who have the title professor or doctor, they are making a claim which is more illogical than Cinderella, and they think religion is a myth? Now let me explain it from the Islamic perspective. From an Islamic perspective, there is a creator. The creator is one. The creator is nothing like the creation, and the creator is the only one worthy of worship. The creator has made us for a reason. It's not just to eat, drink and work 9 to 5 and die so our children can eat, drink and work 9 to 5. The reason is for a higher goal, a higher purpose, which is what? Is to have a relationship. We as human beings, our life, the quality of our life is based on our relationship. Our relationship with who? Our parents firstly. Our relationship with who? Our spouses. Our relationship with who? Our relationship even with the environment, even with the trees, even with the ants, even with our creator. So what Islam teaches is what? Morals. The moral behavior towards the creator, the moral behavior towards each other, the moral behavior with the environment. This is essentially all it teaches. And what does it teach? It teaches the one creator is the only one worthy of worship. All of us as human beings, we come from one family. We have different colors, we have different shapes, we have different languages, but when you cut our skins, we're all red. When you look into the cell, we all have cytoplasm, we all have the same pieces of information. There is more information in one human cell than all of the books in the British Library. We are one common family, and we should love and know each other. We shouldn't kill each other. This is not what Islam is about. Don't believe what you hear in the media. If you are confused about that, pick up a copy of the Quran, read for yourself. What else does Islam teach? The rights of even ants, the rights of camels, the rights of other animals, the rights of everything around us. And when we human beings, when we acknowledge that their creator exists, and we worship and have a link with that creator, and we treat the environment and people around us in the right way, that's when we will have peace. We will not have peace when we follow what Richard Dawkins says. Richard Dawkins, look what he says on his first page. On his very first page, look at the language that he uses. He goes through all these different names which he believes are fitting of God. I can't actually find the reference right now, it doesn't matter. So he calls God a homophobic, he calls God a racist, he calls God a dictator, and so and so and so and so. But in the same book, he says, there is no good, there is no evil, there is no purpose, nothing but blind, pitiless indifference. Tell me, is that going to bring peace on earth when someone says there is no good, there is no evil, there is no purpose? If someone really believes that, there is no point of doing science. And I want to end on one small piece. And this small piece is by an Islamic philosopher and poet who lived 100 years ago. And what this poet said is, I'm going to paraphrase what he said. He said the mystic is the one who looks through the telescope and looks at the cosmos and he reflects about the Creator. So science doesn't take us away from God, doesn't take us away from spirituality. It is a tool which brings us closer to our Creator. What I want everyone here to do is to come, take a small copy of the Quran. Take it from me as a gift, a fellow human being on earth. And let me promise you one thing. You read it, you will never believe the same things you believed before. You will look at the life from a different paradigm. I promise you that. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to be here next week and you can say, you know what, I read it and it didn't make sense to me. So right now I'm going to come down. If anyone wants, they can get it off of me.